Talking F1 with Steve, Neil and the Gov.
Good evening. Welcome to Talking F1, the nice weekly F1 podcast, catching up on all things F1. I'm Steve, and as always, over my left shoulder is Neil. How are you, Neil?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good.
Good man. Have you had a good week?
Are you? I have. Well, yeah, it's reasonable.
Yeah, I'm not too bad either, thank you. I sort of jumped over you there. And did you enjoy the race?
Yes. Well, I would have preferred some teams to have given Red Bull a bit more of a fight for it, but we pretty much came into it knowing what was going to happen.
Oh yeah, the writing was on the wall, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just pleasant because as I said to someone else, that even though we saw potential in practice, you're never quite certain how it will play out. So to find out that Aston were really where they looked to be was,
they were
it was really
genuinely
good.
fast. Yeah. Obviously, it's all well and good looking in practice. There was a practice session last year, Hungary, I believe, where it ended up with Latifi first and Albon third. So, you can never go too much by practice. But yeah, they actually, Alonso quickest in 2 out of 3. And then, he's in the top 3 for all 3 sessions, wasn't he? And then, he was actually genuinely fast. And, brilliant, a podium. A podium for Fernando Alonso.
His teammate tried to stop him at the start of the race.
That was brilliant because at the radio, the opening lap is going, somebody hit me, they can't do that. And at the end, when they said it was Lance, he's going, oh yeah, great job, Lance, good boy. He did well, he's my hero. He's been told he can't say anything bad about him. That's probably in his
stands
clause.
out a little bit.
Yeah.
As a future world champion.
He stands out as a future world champion. He was not paid to say that. EJ Norris, evening, welcome in. What's up with the Mercedes? Well, that's one of the things we're going to try and dissect. They were pretty much nowhere, weren't they, all weekend? Nice seeing Alonso up there again. Yes, absolutely. It was fantastic to see Fernando up there. But yeah.
See the smile on his face again.
Yeah, we haven't seen that, like a genuine smile from Fernando, probably since...
Did you go as far back as Renault to get the true? Or would you say he had some at McLaren?
I would say Ferrari. The last sort of genuine smiles when he was actually competing for a championship, sort of 2012.
I just know he had a lot of Leclerc looks at his time there.
Yeah, there was a lot of depressed Fernando. Because the McLaren, certainly the first year, possibly before it all went to hell with Lewis. The second McLaren stint, not so much. Alpine, apart from the one-off podium, he didn't really have a lot to smile about there either. So I would say certainly the early years of his Ferrari stint was the last time we saw a genuinely happy Alonso. It's just so good. Like he was there. You couldn't stop us since testing. You've not been able to see him without a smile, and it's infectious and it's so good to see.
It's not quite on the same extreme, but you almost get the feeling like Jenson Button did with Brawn.
Yes, yeah, because so many years struggling with Honda, and obviously he'd not even won a title by that point, had he? And then obviously Brawn come out and deliver this insane package. And yeah, you had Jensen over the moon, Barrichello up there as well, sort of with a new lease of life. And it does feel a bit like that with Fernando. It's like he's been given that sort of freedom again. He's got a car that is genuinely fast and it's reliable. The Alpine was quick at times, but it liked to implode and it just chewed itself apart. But
a joy to drive.
Yeah. I mean, Lawrence has already paid him to say that, but I'm sure it genuinely is a nice car, and he looks comfortable in it as well. It could be a complete shitbox, and he's going, yeah, it's great, Lawrence. Love what you've done here. 15th, wow. But no,
he couldn't believe it, could he? He knew that they had signed some of these guys to help the team along, but he was expecting a midfield battle.
Yeah. So with an eye to the next couple of years, maybe, which is what Aston said. They said sort of a 5-year plan. They're into the 3rd year of that. But they're right up there. They look quick in testing. And it's phenomenal. They were quick in practice, but they were quick in the race. Even, I mean, fair play to Lance Stroll. 2 weeks ago he had his wrists. Did you see the photos of him on social media with his wrists sort of all strapped
Pinned
up?
and all sorts, yeah.
Yeah, and he looked in a very bad place.
Was it that was 2 weeks ago? I guess those images and things, and it's supposed to be a 6-week recovery at least.
Yeah, so I've been critical of Lance Stroll over the years, as many have, but you can't fault his dedication to get back into the car.
Was it first practice that he couldn't turn properly on the first corner?
Yeah, they were saying to alter a line or something through turn 1 to get the optimum out of turn 1. And he's saying that he couldn't with his hands. And I'm sitting there thinking, he's not okay to race, because if he's struggling this much over sort of shorter practice stints,
they got
what's
him
he going to be like in wheel to
getting
wheel?
in and out and all sorts, because
he can get in, he couldn't get out. What was he going to be like in wheel to wheel, or over a long race? And bar turn 1.
Did you like his enthusiasm after the race?
Yeah, fair play to him.
I guess he was absolutely shot.
Yeah, he seems knackered. Sort of just a bit, what's that sort of, grind his teeth, that sort of thing, and get on with it. But he was genuinely happy afterwards, and I mean, fair play to him. 6th place, splitting the 2 Mercedes. EJ asking there, what's up with the Mercedes? Well, they were split by one of the Aston Martins, who was driven by a guy who was pretty handicapped, really, with the hands. So, what is happening to Mercedes?
Would have liked, say, Djokovic to have been given a race, but yeah, as you say, it's brilliant that he persevered, and he showed even in that scenario what he could do.
Yeah, so fair play to him, and he's only going to get better, obviously, as his wrists heal up. Fernando is just typically Fernando. That move he did on Lewis with the switchback on that tight left-hander, where you never see an overtake, and that bye-bye on the radio was just, yes, peak Fernando is back. I'm loving it. So, obviously, Aston, we were saying that Aston had a strong Bahrain, as did EJ Norris, as did Williams. I think they can be quite proud of what they achieved. A bit of an unknown quantity, I think, going into Bahrain, but
almost both getting points.
Yeah, really happy with that. And it wasn't exactly,
I think Sargent, coming in straight away. A good performance from him. Not far off Albon all weekend.
No, he was really good. It was a bit of an unknown, really, wasn't it? Because he's obviously so few days of testing, and you're in at the deep end. And it wasn't exactly a race of massive attrition, was it? Leclerc DNF'd, and I think Ocon did, but he was way down the order anyway. And Piastri, I think, was the other one who obviously DNF'd as well, so he was behind him anyway. So it wasn't like they had loads of people drop out ahead of him to bring him up the order, which is more often than not what Latifi relied on. But, our Lord and Saviour. But Sargent, fair play. He was out in Q1. He set the same lap time as Lando Norris in the McLaren. Phenomenal effort, but because Lando set it first, he got the place. And then, he fought well in the race. He got 12th. Alex Albon, P10. Brilliant stuff. So I think we should just end the season there. Call it a day. Williams finishing ahead of the likes of AlphaTauri and Haas and McLaren. So we'll call it a day there. I think we'll see you in 2024. Yeah,
McLaren had a bit of a weekend to forget.
Yeah,
Piastri's putting a brave face on it. You've got all the Ricciardo fans coming out, all smug, saying, look,
I was trying not to be
all.
smug. I was trying to not picture Danny Rick smiling there in the Red Bull garage if he was there. I was coming on to sort of teams that did well. Obviously, got the likes of Aston and Williams, and obviously Red Bull. We'll probably get to them. But teams that didn't do so well, EJ with a comment there from Mercedes. We'll get on to them shortly as well. But McLaren.
Yeah.
Where did you start?
Was it Baku? They're saying they've got major updates, but they need something and they need it quick. They apologised. Well, I've seen the list, and each thing they're complained about saying is the reason that they're terrible, and fans are getting fed up for it. But quite a lot of them haven't been far off, but they need to look in-house a little bit. And the wind tunnel, the old Toyota wind tunnel, is their latest scapegoat.
Oh, that's the new one, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's terrible. But that doesn't explain why they had high pneumatic issues, on the engine for Lando and electrical. Yeah,
it was
awful.
Shocking, wasn't it? Piastri out in Q1, never really looking like he was on the pace. Baptism of fire. Norris only through because he set a lap time quicker than a Williams, or before a Williams. Who would have seen that coming out of 2021? Sorry, 2022. I'm years away. Last season, whatever season it is, I don't know. Well, certainly the past few years, you'd have seen McLaren sort of fighting with the likes of Williams. You wouldn't have thought that, considering how much of an upward trajectory McLaren have been on. They were fighting for podiums. They won a race not long ago.
I never expected them to be trying to make Q3.
No. And then
Lando pulled out some laps again.
Yeah, fair play to him, that qualifying. And then issues for Piastri.
Six pit stops?
6 pit stops, because he's coming in and they're filling the car up again.
Every 10 laps.
Yeah, in he comes. They're just using it as an extended test, weren't they? Really, an extended data gathering.
I don't know, because that was a bit ridiculous. If there's not really a lot to gain from it, they've just worn out components for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah. It is a shame, because it looks like the midfield this year is going to be so close as well, because obviously Williams are up there, Haas at some point were up there, Alfa Romeo. It's a close midfield this year. Aston seems to have just broken free, and then you've got McLaren in there as well.
Rosberg was asking Lando what the issues were and what he would prefer in a car and things, and Lando looked a little bit cagey on what he could say. He didn't particularly want to say the car's a dog.
What would you prefer? I like the black car further up the pit lane. That would be quite nice. But
that was a meme I've seen of him asking Daniel and then trying to get on the phone to Red Bull about that contract.
Yeah. Oh, no. But one Mercedes-powered team was very successful. One Mercedes-powered team was not very successful. The main Mercedes team seemed to be nowhere. Both finished the race, both scored points, never looked like threatening. It's another disappointing start to the season for Mercedes.
One of the main things for them was they use the same wind tunnel as Aston Martin. It's their own. And the fact that they're being outdone by a customer.
And it's a customer that looks more like a Red Bull. With that,
they use some of these suspension parts, don't they? So they use their wind tunnel. They've got some of their components, and they're doing a better job.
They are doing a much better job, certainly after race one.
So it's been said that if they went more down the Red Bull route, there's proof that the parts they've got would make a car that's better. Yeah,
George qualified ahead of Lewis. Finished behind him, split by the Aston of Lance Stroll. And Hamilton was victim to one of the greatest overtakes I remember for a long, long time, with Fernando just going pure Fernando on him. George never really saw anything of him, really. Just sort of turned up.
Was that
finished
pass done in the pits?
I think so, because I can't remember anything on track about the two Mercedes fighting. It was just a very, very underwhelming weekend, wasn't it? This could be. Everyone was coming into 2023 saying maybe this is the year Mercedes make this concept work, or they can at least challenge for a podium, maybe not a win. And no, they were helped a bit by Leclerc, the Ferrari going full Ferrari, but they never look like challenging for the top 3 in quali. They never really look like challenging for the podium. Toto Wolff has been quite critical, saying that this car is not going to be competitive. So do you think they could change their concept? It's a comment there from EJ saying that. Do you think Mercedes will change the overall concept?
I can't. Well, Toto, basically, the way he came out after the race, just basically all guns blazing, wasn't he?
Mm.
It's not good enough. They need major, because they're looking at was it a 3/10 update they've got coming in a couple of races, and he's like, what's the point in getting excited over that? That's not good enough. And
it's not going to help them, is it?
No, but they're pretty much in the same boat as McLaren. A B spec's got to be on the way.
Yeah, but now it's tricky because you've got to think of the cost cap.
Cost cap. Yeah, it's almost like it's not quite a B, it's an A.2.
Yeah. Because you think, okay, so this concept, in years gone by, you think, right, this concept hasn't worked, the zero side pod design. So go back to a more sort of stereotypical, I suppose, and a more normal approach with the thicker side pods, and maybe go down the Red Bull design. But, those days aren't there anymore because you've got the cost cap. You can't design, surely you can't design another F1 car and build it and get it competitive keeping in the cost cap. So is 2023 another almost year before they finally switch for 2024? Unless this car does suddenly become good, which is doubtful.
I think Mercedes will do another 2023 where towards the end they'll be pushing up the top again. As for McLaren, they've already gone 2024.
Yeah, they're done. One race in, they're written it off. They're done.
So, yeah, we'll see. The main thing is their concept is completely different, and obviously all the components from front wing to everything is for the concept they've got now. Depending on how much they've trialed, what ideas they have on other concepts. They must have looked in on other ideas, but it's a tall order, isn't it, to completely start again.
And I think that the thing that could potentially help them is that obviously Red Bull, who have absolutely blown everyone away so far, I say this season, obviously it's been one race, but no one ever looked like threatening them. Charles Leclerc was the closest to threaten, and he obviously dropped out of the race. Carlos Sainz never looked on it. The Mercedes were way off. Fernando was just sort of in that sort of mid, not Mercedes or Ferrari, but not Red Bull.
Carlos basically continued from last year, just nowhere near Charles.
This was 2022 Carlos. But Red Bull, because they won last year, they get the least amount of aero time this year. That could potentially hurt them. It could help other teams to close that gap. Obviously, they've got the cost cap penalty as well, which will reduce their aero time even further.
You think this track's abrasive on the tyres, so the teams that struggle with wearing out their tyres, they'll get closer on other tracks. But whether other factors will come in and level it up again, because Max was 0.6 a lap quicker than Leclerc every lap. Yeah,
it was just phenomenal. I think the old Office meme of how the turntables. 12 months ago, it was a Ferrari 1-2 and a Red Bull double DNF. It wasn't quite that bad for Ferrari this time, but one DNF and a Red Bull 1-2. So shoe is on the other foot. LG, hi both. I've said before, massive fan of yours. Thank you very much. We really do appreciate it. Great to have you in. If you play any F1 games, yes. That's a nice little segue, actually. I don't know about you, Neil. I play a lot of the F1 games on console. I'm heavily into F1 22 at the minute. So I would recommend that. If you like the idea of making your own team rather than just being a driver, that's very, very good.
I must admit, I've not got 22. I've got 21.
21 is still brilliant. The whole My Team thing is fantastic. You've got the opportunity to actually bring your own team into. I think it was introduced in 2020, this feature. Rather than just be a driver for a team, you can make your own team, choose a team name, a teammate. You can bring old teams back from the dead. I renamed mine Arrows. because they were fantastic.
I must admit, I do the same. I've also had Benetton as well.
Oh, Benetton, yes, yeah, Jordan. Go for something really outlandish and just go like Hesketh or something. Just something from decades ago. Bring Hesketh back. LG, we have actually got the F1 Fantasy League we're doing here. Talking F1, we do have our own Fantasy League. There it is. Currently, we've got 5 teams in it. So I don't know who Latifi in the wall is. If you're in the chat, let us know, because
I think I may know who that is.
I have no clue. But either way, you've got off to a very good start. 295 points from the first race. NMF1 team, I wonder who that could be. You're doing very well. Second place. JG, welcome in. Me and LG both enjoy these streams. Thank you. We really do appreciate it. Why don't you join our F1 Fantasy League as well? We'll put details in the chat about how to join it. Metal Jace, P3 with his. He's got a car. That's me. I'm in 4th. But I'm not last anymore. I was 4th out of 4 at one point, so now I'm actually 4th out of 5. So
yeah, Gav joined us. He created it. I knew he'd created a team. He just hadn't joined our league.
Hadn't joined it. Okay, so Latifi in the wall. I thought that was you, Gav, but it's obviously not.
I'm in second.
I thought he did it to wind me up. So if you are in the chat with Latifi, let us know, because that team name cracked me up when I first saw it. All details for the F1 Fantasy League. There'll be pinned comments after the show, after the chat. But yeah, make sure you join it, because it's great. It's just a bit of fun. You pick 5 F1 drivers and 2 teams. It's great.
We don't take it seriously, do we?
No, not.
To be honest, most of the time I don't even adjust who gets the boost, and there's some extra thing that you can do as well that I've not touched yet.
I'm not familiar with that, but yeah, I try not to take it seriously, but I really do. I got really annoyed when Charles Leclerc DNF'd, not because he was out of the race, but because he cost me points in my fantasy. Fortunately, I had Alonso and Verstappen as well. But was this Gov's team? Yeah, so Verstappen and Russell, good shout. Albon, Leclerc, Alonso. See, Leclerc, minus 11.
He really didn't help anyone.
No, he didn't. But Fernando, he was right up there. And I got Albon in my... Actually, I had Fernando in my head for days after that race. It was really annoying. Spotted me in Curry's. If it was the Curry's in Norwich, potentially. I tend not to go in there. I work for one of their rivals. But there we go.
Yeah, the thing I was talking about was applied chips.
Oh, right. Okay. I have to start doing
There's, limitless, wildcard, extra DRS, no negative, autopilot. I don't know what any of them do. I was going to have to search, or unless someone... Yeah, because I've got my ×2 on max.
Same.
But yeah, I have no idea what any of those do if someone else has a clue.
No, I'd have to look
I guess the no negatives is quite clear. You give that to a driver, and if they mess up, if you had given that to Leclerc, you'd be fine.
I'd have been fine. I know who to give that to now for the next races. Oh, poor Charles. And just the resignation in his voice when he pulled over. It's like, no. And he's just thinking, yep, here we go. Ferrari it was a disaster. They changed his energy store before the race because they weren't happy with something. And then apparently it was the energy store that failed in the race. The new one apparently failed. So,
well, you only get 2 of them in a season, so there's a penalty straight up. Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Or is it the energy controller side of things? You only get 2 of.
The energy store,
so
you do get
one's
2.
already gone.
Yeah. It's going to be another painful year for Ferrari. Sainz needs to up his game. It's only obviously one race in, but same as last year at times, where Charles Leclerc had issues, but Carlos Sainz wasn't in a position to actually challenge for that win. He needs to up his game, because Verstappen and Red Bull look like they're on another planet this year. That car is a rocket. Charles Leclerc was the closest to challenging him, and when he dropped out, there was no one. The Red Bulls just cruised off into the distance. And it's going to be a long season if it's like that.
You think if no one else closes the gap, Max is going to get a few championships under his belt?
He is, yeah. He's got 2. He's obviously odds-on favourite for a 3rd to enter a very select group of drivers who've won 3 championships on the bounce.
Well, you know it, you could have 2 drivers on 7 trying to make it 8.
Imagine that. Just imagine if you get to the time where Verstappen is on 7 and Hamilton is still around, but they're both fighting for an 8th. That would be much. You've got about
Lewis
5
is
years
adamant
to go.
is he's done the lie detector test. He's
Yeah.
staying until he gets his 8.
That's I'll be intrigued to see that. It's not going to be this year unless Mercedes really pulls something out of the bag. I want to see, in my heart of hearts, I want to see Fernando fight for this championship. And if it got to the point where it's Fernando or Charles Leclerc, I don't know what I'd do. I think I would just implode because I love them both. But yeah,
It's got to be Fernando.
I think it has, because Charles Leclerc's a young guy. He's obviously got lots of time ahead of him to win a championship. Fernando's in the last few years of his F1 career. I know he's on a multi-year deal with Aston, but yeah, he's not a young guy anymore. So yeah, we'll see. But do you think Charles Leclerc can win a championship at Ferrari?
If they do, it's going to be one like Kimi did.
Yeah.
He was good. Car was decent, but really it was down to another team having a squabble that gave it to him.
Curry's cop doc. Yeah, it wasn't me then. Definitely wasn't me. Verstappen the cheat. Let's see the championship. He probably will get a championship. I'm not going to say about the cheating side of it, but if anything,
went down to him, was it?
Yeah, if anything, it was Red Bull more than Verstappen. But depends what year you're talking about. You're talking about 21 with the Abu Dhabi, or 2022 with the cost cap. Either way, it wasn't Verstappen's fault in either case. But there we go. Yeah, he's probably going to get another championship under his belt. Certainly, if the car is as quick as it is, and no one can catch them. So yeah, Checo.
Do you think
doesn't seem on it either?
Mellowed on his attitude that we had for his first title?
I think so. Because obviously it seems like quite a different Verstappen to what we're seeing sort of in 2020, 2021, because he's got the couple of championships under his belt. You know, he's got his ultimate goal. You know, so I think that has taken some of the pressure off, some of that sort of hard edge off, maybe. He's still one of the finest drivers on the grid, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it doesn't seem to be as aggressive.
Yeah, it is a shame that him in his prime, there's not another person to really push him toe to toe. When you really see the mettle of the driver, Perez is not that man to push him like at least Lewis had Nico.
Yeah, exactly. Perez is a solid number 2 driver, but he's never going to be the one to push Verstappen. And Verstappen knows that. The closest person to push him was Charles Leclerc. And that was going very well until Ferrari remembered who they were last year and started messing up strategies, and they built a car that caught fire if you pushed the throttle too hard. So, yeah, a huge shame. And it doesn't seem like Ferrari are going to be in the title fight in the early part of this year, I would say. Like a comment from LJ's there, Red Bull might suffer later in the season because they're obviously the current car, how it was developed. But later in the season's a bit too late, isn't it, to make a challenge?
Ferrari are trying to be positive. There's 22 more races.
Yeah.
Other tracks will be better for them as they've got high tyre wear. Yeah. The only problem was that they just don't look as close on race pace as they were last year. And they had an edge on quali pace, I believe, and that still is slightly behind. That was 0.3 and quali pace, potentially, 0.2 if he'd done a second run.
Yeah, one of the things they had going for them last year was their quali pace. You know, Charles Leclerc got the most poles out of anyone last season, but they don't have that to fall back on this year, and they're way off it in the race. You know, he was close at some point, but then the car went. So, and Carlos was just, as we said earlier, you know, there were 3 people who were very, very quiet through the duration of that race, really, with the 2 Mercedes and Carlos.
I keep smiling to myself because I keep remembering Alpine and their fun day they had with Ocon.
God, we haven't even touched on that. Wow. Equaling the most penalties ever received in one race with the wonderful Pastor Maldonado. It came up at the top of the screen under investigation. Ocon. What now?
They didn't even dare tell him for his last one, was it? The speeding in the pit lane.
No. We got a penalty for being out of position at the start.
He claimed he does that every time. His wheel, because they've got the little marker lines, because it's hard to see the edge of their box, and he went beyond it. But he claimed as long as I didn't roll on the start, it shouldn't have been. But whatever. He got one.
He got one for that. And then he came into the pits and did the 5-second penalty incorrectly.
They worked on the car too quickly.
So, not his fault. Fair enough. That was the team. And then he spared in the pit lane on the way out with that penalty. So he had to come in and serve another penalty before they ended up just going, oh, you know what, stop this. And they retired the car. So a dismal start to his season.
Problem is, Lando couldn't even race him.
No. I'm sort of thinking, all right, at least we'll get a race between a McLaren and an Alpine, so you'll see who's better. Oh, no, he's out and Lando's in again. Okay.
And then Lando trying to basically get past Hamilton. Who else was it? Was it him and Alonso?
Yeah. They were
just trying to get in on that one.
He was just catching them ever so slightly.
And then had another stop.
I think to be fair, apart from the Red Bulls, in their own league, JG, I don't have the steering wheel. No, I use a controller still.
I use steering wheel.
Oh, I want to get a steering wheel.
I just find that it's very much like when you're doing corners with a joystick. It's just like, no, just give me a wheel and pedals.
Yeah, I've got one for the PC because I play the F1 games on the console. I've got a set of course on the PC, but for console, I've got it on PlayStation. So I want to get a steering wheel for it. Hopefully, if money's okay during the coming year. But with one race in, there's 22 or 21. 22 more races to go.
I believe.
Yes, that's it. Because it should have been 24, but obviously China. So 22 more races to go. So
we've got a massive gap at that point, haven't we?
We have. Yes, it's going to be
one at the start of the month and one at the end.
Yeah, an early break. So it's going to be an interesting season. Obviously, we're only one race in, so there's a lot to digest really, and a lot to look forward to. Hopefully, Red Bull aren't this quick all year, and other teams can catch them and can threaten and fight them. But I think that pretty much brings it to an end for this week. So we should be back 7:15-ish next week. There's no race this weekend. We'll sort of look ahead to the coming race. But thank you very, very much for watching. We do appreciate it. We love all the comments, seeing you all getting involved as well. All the details for the F1 fantasy will be pinned in chat after this. So, yeah, come along, create your team. It's all a good bit of fun. If your team does badly, it's frustrating. But, who cares? It's all for a laugh, isn't it? So, we'll see you next week at 7:15. I have been Steve, as always. He has been Neil. Thank you very much. And we shall see you.